I like Bitcoin too. I just don't have that many. I watched it go from 0 to 60, and I forget his name, but he's a Max Kaiser. He was screaming and yelling about it. I'm going, what the hell is this guy quacking about? So it hit 20, then it retraced down to like 0 or something. So it's gone. And then Bitcoin came creeping back. So when it hit 6,000, it had momentum behind it, as a technical trader would say. So I loaded up at 6,000. So I missed quite a bit of it. But I'm still happy. I got about 70 Bitcoin now. But I'd like to get more, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Bitcoin, because for a younger generation, we share similar concerns. Is that I read this book here when I was in my 20s, 30s, called The Grunch of Giants by R. Buckminster Fuller. It's an okay book. It's not great. But he said basically what my rich dad was telling me. He says, the banks rip us off. He basically said, our wealth is stolen. So Bucky Fuller, our wealth is stolen via our money. So we're going to work real hard. Then we put our money into savings. That's why if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I said savers were losers. Why would you save money when they're printing it? It made no sense to me. You know what I mean? And all that stuff, that's why Rich Dad was formed.
Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki is betting big on Bitcoin, predicting its price to skyrocket to $100,000 by June of this year. Kiyosaki, who recently boosted his own Bitcoin holdings, sees the approval of the new Bitcoin ETFs and the impending Bitcoin halving as catalysts for this surge. In his most recent interview, Kiyosaki was joined by Robert Breedlove, where they discussed the role of Bitcoin in the financial landscape. They broke down how the traditional banking system essentially steals wealth from savers through inflation. They also spoke on Bitcoin's potential to democratize finance and challenge existing power structures. They portrayed Bitcoin as not just a digital currency, but as a symbol of financial empowerment and resistance against censorship and monetary manipulation. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Robert Kiyosaki reveals why it's never too late to get into Bitcoin. Also guys, if you want to stay most up to date in the crypto world, I sent out a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter that covers expert predictions, on-chain data breakdowns, and breaking news, all for free. Click the first link in the description, enter your email, and join over 50,000 others to become a better crypto investor right now. Now here's an exclusive insight into Kiyosaki's Bitcoin holdings.
Printing money is stealing. Right, you're just debasing savers. So you're stealing purchasing power from savers, and you're transferring that purchasing power to whoever can access the newly printed money first. This is called the law.
But there's also inflation and taxation.
That's right.
And all of that goes on.
So essentially, you could say it like this: you're either stealing through purchasing power loss, so people are paying for this in the form of price increases. Or even if prices go down, when there's money printed, they're going to have foregone price deflation. Prices should have gone down even further had there not been money printing. So you're either paying for it as price inflation or foregone price deflation. But there's no equitable benefit whatsoever to the printing of money. It is purely a transfer of purchasing power from savers to those who can print money.
This whole thing here of true capitalism, prices should be coming down.
Yes.
Not going up. Like when a farmer goes out there and plants cabbages, if he produces a lot of cabbage, the price of the cabbage comes down, not up.
Of course.
So every time I see inflation and people going, oh, they blame the capitalists, it's really not the capitalists who are the problem. It's the Marxist. So
it is, yes. Yes, it is when you could actually, so central banking, which is the currency counterfeiting cartel that prints all this money, and uses the insidious tax of inflation to confiscate people's wealth. This is actually measure number 5 in Marx's 1848 Manifesto to the Communist Party. So it's no exaggeration to say that central banking is monetary communism, or monetary socialism to be more general. It's an aggression against the private property of savers. So it's an anti-capitalistic institution to the core. Now, to try and demystify this a little bit, so anyone that's ever owned a stock, right, a public equity or a stock certificate in a company, that stock represents your share of that company's capital, right? So a company has certain plant, equipment, IP, whatever the assets are on the balance sheet of that company. net of the liabilities, you have the equity, right? That is what the equity certificate or the stock certificate represents, is your share of that company's capital. Now, no one in their right mind would ever want a quote unquote elastic stock certificate that some other shareholder could print new shares of and dilute you, right? That they could just arbitrarily increase their ownership in the business and simultaneously dilute your ownership interest in the company's capital stock. That would be nonsense. We would not tolerate that whatsoever. Yet in money, you could think of money as like a stock certificate in the share of global capital, right? It represents a fractional share of how much purchasing power you have. So how much power you can go out to purchase the goods and capital available in the global marketplace. If one quote unquote shareholder can print themselves new shares of money to enrich themselves and debase you, that is as asinine as having an elastic stock certificate. That one shareholder class can print themselves new shares and debase another. So it's to your point about being anti-capitalistic, it's nonsense, right? Like to have capitalism, you need ownership and strong private property rights. Printing money is a violation of private property rights.
That's like somebody coming and taking away part of your lot away. You say,
exactly,
one third of this acre is mine now.
That's right.
So, and it's one of the reasons I don't buy stocks, because I've issued stocks. I'm a entrepreneur, and we printed them all the time. It was it was completely debasement. You know what I mean? We just printed more shares of stocks so we could sell more shares. It's legal. We do it legally. Please hear me. Sure. Legally. But I didn't like it.
But even when you did that, the dilution on the cap table was pro rata, which means every person that owned a percentage of that company was diluted proportionately.
Right.
What I'm saying with the printing of money is that it's not proportionate whatsoever. There's one group that's expanding their ownership and they're diluting another group. So central bank shareholders expand their purchasing power at the expense of savers or users of the currency.
Correct.
It's a totally rigged game.
So again, so that's why Rich Dad said, you know, they're stealing our wealth via our money. Same Bucky Fuller said they steal our wealth via our money.
That's right.
And there's another thing called the Cantillon effect.
That's right.
That the closer you are to those who print the money, the richer you get. What is a Cantillon effect?
It's exactly what I just described, actually. So those who receive the newly printed money first or earliest benefit at the expense of those who receive it later or last. So as money enters broader circulation, prices start to increase, right? Goods and capital get bid up. So those that are buying it at low prices before that money enters circulation and bids up prices are benefiting. They're increasing their capital position at the expense of those that receive it later. So this is a simple way of saying this. Money printing is one of the primary means by which the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. If 99% of your balance sheet is assets, well, then those assets are being bid up and you're benefiting from price inflation to some extent. If 99 or 100% of your balance sheet is cash, or you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you live on fixed income, you are being victimized in this scheme. So it's a regressive tax on the poor, basically.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear. Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out. I said the savers were losers. The rich don't work for money. And your house is not an asset, because all of it was designed to take your wealth from you.
Yeah. I mean, you opened this show talking about the good news on money. And I would argue that there is no good news on money other than Bitcoin. And you also mentioned that you don't think you have enough Bitcoin. And I would say, welcome to the club. There's not a Bitcoiner alive that doesn't think they don't have enough Bitcoin. We all want more because it is basically the ultimate form of ownership or the ultimate form of money that has ever existed. And then to your other point, we have this idea in Bitcoin that everyone gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. So it's very complicated. It's hard to understand. You need to understand a little bit about a lot of things to really start to get your head around Bitcoin. And you know, just take all this with a grain of salt and a dose of humility. Even those that have their head around Bitcoin still don't fully understand it. Like once you start to understand how the technology works, the implications are truly staggering and profound and hard to think through. But so what is it? I mean, if private property is the power for an owner to control an asset, independent of anyone else's actions, right? That you can fully control an asset, then Bitcoin is the strongest form of private property that human beings have ever had.
And the reason I want to go into it is because we're talking before we came on with Jeff Booth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother dimension to Bitcoin I never realized.
Yes.
And the thing I'm excited about is young guys like you, who are already, I'm so old. I don't know what the web is, but you guys grew up in it. And from what I understand is young guys like you are going to take Bitcoin to a whole nother level. And I think that's what the old guys like me are saying. The government's going to come after you guys.
Yeah, and that's what Bitcoin's designed for. This is money wrapped in military-grade encryption designed to be unstoppable. So there's no conceivable way to stop it. And to Jeff Booth's point about Bitcoin being much bigger than money, it's true. I think we're going to re-architect the internet on top of Bitcoin. One of the things Bitcoin does is by being an unstoppable money, you can actually send messages on Bitcoin that are equally unstoppable. So it's going to be through Bitcoin and the higher layer protocols we build on it that we will have true free speech in the digital age. It will be the end of digital monopolies and censorship by virtue of having an unstoppable communications protocol built on top of Bitcoin. That's one of the most exciting dimensions of it.
And according to Jeff, it gets more fair.
Yes.
Right now, if you're not close to the Fed, you're not Janet Yellen's friend, you're out.
That's right.
So when we come back, and it's going way too fast, but we'll get into, I'm going to ask some questions that Jeff put in my head, Jeff Booth. And then you can yay or nay on all this, Jeff. But I'm understanding a whole other dimensions to quote unquote money via Bitcoin is just the start. So when we come back with Robert Breedlove. We're talking more about why Bitcoin, and we make no recommendations. We're not saying you should buy it or not buy it. I buy it, but why you should at least entertain it.
You should study it, I would argue.
What was that?
You should study Bitcoin.
Yes. That's what I've been doing. And the more I study it, the more actually confused I get. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot bigger than just Bitcoin.
Every 4 years, the Bitcoin algorithm cuts that new supply, that newly produced Bitcoin in half. So every 10 minutes right now, it's 6.25 Bitcoin are produced every 10 minutes. I think it's about May this year. It's sort of a probabilistic date. Around May 2024, that amount of newly issued Bitcoin every 10 minutes will go down by 50%. So to 3.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. What this does is it cuts the natural selling pressure on Bitcoin by half. So Bitcoin miners are typically having to sell this Bitcoin that they are awarded to cover their operational and capital expenditures. However, when the newly issued Bitcoin is cut in half, that selling pressure is reduced by half. So if you hold demand constant, this is the magic of Bitcoin price number go up technology, as we say. Every 4 years, the natural selling pressure is reduced by half. So if demand is constant, this puts upward pressure on the price. And we tend to see new all-time high Bitcoin prices roughly 500 days after the halving. So expect to see a new Bitcoin all-time high price roughly 500 days after May 2024.
A lot of people get into Bitcoin to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the halving comes, right now, I think they're about $40,000 per coin.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many people have $40,000 lying around. They can just buy one.
Mm-hmm.
The halving comes, let's say it goes to 60,000. And I think this is what happens to old guys like me versus young guys like you. From what I understand from Jeff Booth, that halving actually makes Bitcoin more fair.
And so Bitcoin is the embodiment of that idea, right? All humans are actually equal in the eyes of Bitcoin. It doesn't matter your race, creed, color. It doesn't matter. It's totally agnostic to human affairs. It just does what it does. New block every 10 minutes, supply cap of 21 million. And it doesn't care who uses it, how they use it. It's just a fair, equitable economic system. And that is very crucial for human beings.
So there's Robert Kiyosaki and Robert Breedlove, two influential voices in the world of finance and crypto. Their recent discussion not only highlighted Kiyosaki's bullish outlook on Bitcoin, but also delved into the fundamental flaws of the current monetary system. By simplifying complex economic concepts and emphasizing Bitcoin's potential to empower individuals, Kiyosaki and Breedlove conveyed a message of hope and opportunity amidst financial uncertainty. As Bitcoin continues to gain mainstream acceptance and adoption, their insights serve as a reminder of the importance of financial education and taking control of one's financial future. Before we go, a quick reminder for those who are keen on staying updated in the fast-paced world of crypto and Bitcoin. Consider subscribing to our daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value.